You know, I hate to admit it, but sometimes you think like a man. I respect that.
Don't trust us if we don't even trust ourselves.
Not even a little bit. Can't even make a cup of tea.
How you doing, Frico?
That's harsh. I'm glad you didn't go with Lardhead there.
That was the second choice. I was thinking, yeah, probably not. How are things?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Feeling good?
Absolutely, it's been a good week.
What do you think of this week's episode?
I enjoyed this week's episode again. It was another good one. I think the show is at a high level at this point.
I think we might have enjoyed it as much as David Rasche clearly enjoyed playing the role this week.
I don't think anyone enjoyed anything as much as David Rasche enjoyed playing that role in this episode.
He loved it, didn't he?
It looked like it.
It's good fun, good to see.
Yeah, it's always good when someone enjoys their work.
Anything you want to say before we start this week's episode?
Well, I think this far in, we've been doing this now for 7 weeks, and it's been great to see the response from people. We've enjoyed engaging with you all on the forums and on social media. Please keep talking to us. It's great. We look forward to it every week.
We do. Tell you what, why don't you ask for the iTunes requests? Top of the show. We can cut that out from the end. Mix it up a little bit.
We'll maybe get double the number of reviews this week if I mention it this early.
2.
Before folk have tuned out at the end, the theme song comes on. No, we're stopping there. iTunes is not how everybody listens to their podcasts, but those who do, and even those who don't, it makes a big difference to us if you could go in there and rate and review the show, because the majority of new podcasts are found through iTunes and through their new, noteworthy and other categories. So if you were able to spare the time to do that, it would be very much appreciated if you enjoyed the show, of course.
Yeah, if you want to give us a 1 star, don't bother.
Yeah, just, why are you even listening?
Okay, how about they listen to your summary?
It's always a good way to start.
Crack on.
In All Shook Up, Hammer is assigned to find and stop a serial killer who is murdering a series of champion Elvis impersonators at regional heats in the local area. With Hammer's stage presence, the inspector believes he can act as bait to lure the killer into the open. But with deaths mounting, can Sledge find his devil in disguise?
Thank you, Ian. I'm sure that will remain on everyone's mind. Always.
Always on their minds.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Yeah. Okay.
Never mind.
Terrible joke.
Where do we start?
Conveniently enough, at an Elvis impersonation concert.
In a bar?
Yep, and then the winner's being announced, and it's contestant number 21.
Mm-hmm. Very popular competition.
Obviously, there's a high level of entries, and he celebrates and returns to the car with his trophy.
Yeah, we see this walk of death.
I liked it,
times.
actually. It was nicely shot.
Yeah. The winner walks to his car. He's holding his trophy, and we see him being followed by a person in a pair of blue suede shoes. What happens next?
Well, he gets his car and he turns and he screams, and we see a golden microphone lifted high in the air above him.
Mm-hmm. And similar to Psycho,
Okay.
we don't see anything, but it's implied.
Same with Columbo, actually. A lot of the time, most of the early series, you didn't see the killing.
Nope.
It was all implied.
Yes. And we have a nod to Psycho with the score at this point. It's similar to the score in the famous or infamous shower scene. We are still in the car lot, but it's later on and it's now the crime scene.
Yes, Sledge and Trunk and Dory have arrived.
And Trunk reminds Sledge that there have been 15 Elvis impersonators killed in the last 3 weeks. And we see this chalk outline. Describe it.
Well, it's basically the sort of traditional Elvis pose, come Bruce Forsyth, someone in the middle of that, with the Elvis quiff going on in the chalk outline.
There's plenty of excellent visual jokes in this week's episode, I think.
It's a good one. Trunk is forced to chastise Hammer gently and tell him to take things seriously.
Yes, because he suggests the motive may be to get into the Guinness Book.
Yes.
Trunk's not amused.
He's never amused.
He wants it stopped. He wants his killing stopped, and he orders Sledge and Dory to head over to the coroner's office to find out more.
Yeah, and as Trunk leaves, Hammer bemoans the fact that people can do things like this.
Yeah, and you think he is referring to the gruesome act of murder.
Yeah, but he's not. He's referring to the drawing of chalk outlines for a living.
And he's got a point.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a job in and of itself.
No, I'm sure it falls within the remit of someone else, but still, back in the... I mean, do you still do it these days? Obviously, if you wouldn't use chalk, you'd use some sort of spray or tape, but do they still actually make a mark around the body?
I'm not sure if they do. I don't know. I do know that maybe a month or so ago, looking out of the office window at work, I saw someone had drawn a chalk outline next to BHS.
An omen.
Yes, shortly before the chain went bust.
Shortly before before it died. Yeah, shouldn't laugh. Lots of people lost their jobs.
Ah, well.
And a scoundrel was in charge, apparently. Allegedly.
Well, at some point.
We head over to the morgue.
I like this.
And as I mentioned earlier, we have another fantastic visual gag. So we see a row of bodies lined up, the sheets pulled up to their face, but what's revealed?
Well, they've all got Elvis quiffs. It's almost like it's identical bodies.
The coroner tells them that the next of kin have been informed of the deaths, but they were not able to ID the bodies because
they look the same. That's not normally how you do identifications of a dead body. You don't normally pick them out of a lineup.
No. And Sledge is feeling a little bit peckish.
Yeah, this was a bit weird for me. I know you enjoyed the lunch scene. I didn't get that one.
I think he's just been a bit of an oddball. So he says he needs to eat his lunch. Dory tries to persuade him not to, but he says nope, he cannot. It's quite late on.
Yeah,
and he can't miss another meal.
I did enjoy him using the mortuary tools to cut his sandwich.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not like a hot dog bunny has it first, and then he starts to slice a pizza.
Yep, and then he's got sushi.
Yeah. As he is eating, the coroner provides some further information.
Tell me, what exactly was the method used to do in these Elvises?
The assailant struck each and every one of the victims in the head using a blunt object.
What kind of blunt object?
I'm not exactly sure. Their fragment studies have led me to believe that the weapon was gold-plated.
Gold-plated?
Yes, and furthermore, speculating from the size and the shapes of the wounds, it's my guess that each one of the fatal blows were administered by a microphone.
A microphone? Well, I guess we should start bringing some game shows in for questioning, right?
No. Would you please stop eating? It's really in very poor taste.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I should have brought enough for everybody. Yeah.
If you'll excuse me, I gotta go get ready. Photographers are coming to take some pictures of myself, along with all these dead Elvises.
What, for the newspapers?
No, the Guinness Book.
Nice little callback to the earlier reference to the Guinness Book there. I quite like the fact that when Dory referred to bad taste, Hammer didn't have a joke about the flavour of his lunch.
No.
That's not really something you hear very often anymore, bringing enough for everyone. That used to be something, when I was a kid, that was the kind of thing you would hear.
You've worked it out yourself there, haven't you, Ian? You don't hear about it much these days because you're not a kid anymore. I'm assuming that kids still perhaps hear about it.
Maybe, I don't know. I just don't remember a scenario where I had to feed other people.
Yeah. I mean, you don't hear much these days, Ian. You don't hear much.
Go to your room.
Go to your room, yes. It's bedtime now. Well, maybe you do. And put your toys away. It's just weird. It doesn't happen anymore. Why is that, Ian?
Yeah, I get put your son's toys away.
Yeah. My son's toys away.
Son's.
Why is someone telling you to put my son's toys away?
Wordsmithery.
Did you like the morgue attendant?
It was interesting.
Now, he is Norman Bates, is his character's name. This is his first appearance. He's a recurring character.
And he's always called Norman Bates.
Yeah. And I've got some trivia about him.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Is it psycho-related?
What makes you think that? So,
Dory goes on to comment about how tough it must be to be a coroner and wake up every morning knowing there's going to be a dead body waiting for you, and Hammer likens that to marriage.
yes, he says, I can believe it. I told you I was married for 5 years. Back to the precinct. Dory and Sledge discuss the case, but she is not happy that he seems to be using it as an excuse to make mediocre jokes. Now, do you think this is a sort of inside joke?
I think it is, because they have gone for the easy joke a couple of times. I mean, the visual jokes, like we talked about, were really good, but some of the stuff that Hammer's been saying is probably on the mediocre side.
But I think the way David Rashy performs it, he can say just about anything, and he's got enough charisma and enough timing and enough style, comedy-wise, to make anything work.
There's a great moment here when he just pings an elastic band and it hits Trunk in the face.
That's what I'm talking about. On the page, it doesn't sound funny.
Yeah.
Hammer then he flicks elastic band and it hits someone in the face. It's schoolboy stuff. But just the way he doesn't mean these things, and you can see his reaction. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, Ian. His physical acting, his response and the way he moves, and he's just a funny guy.
Yeah. There's something about elastic bands though, isn't there, when you see one?
Oh yeah.
There's always an urge just to flick it at somebody.
I think I've probably flicked about 12 at you in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I just do it with anyone in the office if I see somebody. And obviously, you immediately feel terrible if you hit them.
Not immediately. I immediately feel satisfaction and I think, oh, that was quite nice. I enjoyed that. And then I might go, sorry.
Yeah.
Depends where you hit them. I mean, I tend to aim for the back of your head.
Yeah, there's nothing more annoying than when you hit someone with a perfect shot, you're excited about it, and they're going all serious.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are you doing?
What's more annoying, actually, I find, is when you take a distance shot from an elastic band and it skims by and misses them by...
And they don't even know.
They don't notice and you think, oh, that was so close. They perhaps think it was a little fly.
Yeah, could be anything, a gust of wind.
Yeah. You want that to be appreciated. Good effort.
Yeah, it wasn't far away.
No.
Athletic skill.
Anyway, where are we?
I think we were about to discuss whether picking elastic bands could be qualified as a sport.
We'll leave that to another episode. Sledge is not impressed with the copycat killer headline that he sees the paper.
No.
I did enjoy it. I thought that was brilliant.
I liked it.
And he says what?
He wants to know why the press insist on glorifying violent people instead of folk like him.
Total lack of self-awareness there.
Absolutely.
Now, I think there's a suggestion that this contest, these events, are postponed until the killer is apprehended, and you would think to yourself that perhaps the contestants themselves would be up for a postponement.
Yeah, you would have thought, but apparently that cannot be done. There's national finals coming, and perhaps the glory is more important. We've actually skipped over my favourite line in the episode.
This one when Hammer talks about an elimination.
Well, no, it's when Trunk asks how the investigation's going, and Hammer says he'll have a better idea after a few more killings. Trunk's got a headache coming on.
He's always got a headache coming on.
Yeah, I think this is one of these things that's kind of a thread through more than one episode. But Sledge has got a solution this time.
Yes, he brilliantly tries to convince Trunk to allow him to use acupuncture on him.
Yeah.
And he pulls out these massive needles.
Trunk retreats to his office and bars the door. Have you ever had acupuncture?
I'm not a believer in it, Ian, as you probably know.
I'm not a believer. I have had it done though.
Why would you have it done if you don't believe in it? Why? Sorry, you don't believe in it, but you let other people stick needles into your body.
On one occasion.
Why? If you don't believe in it, what was it?
I was with somebody else who was getting it done, and I thought, fair enough, I'll rather than sit for an hour.
Not fair enough. I'm not a tattoo fan.
Yeah.
If I was with someone who was getting tattooed, I wouldn't think, well.
That's a bit different, that's permanent. You don't feel the needles going in acupuncture.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
It was interesting.
Yeah, there's lots of things that are interesting, Ian.
I can say I've done it.
No, again, there's lots of things that I could say I've done, but I wouldn't be up for saying that I had done.
Homeopathy.
These aren't aromatherapy. We shouldn't.
Will offend
Apologies,
people.
yes, if you're into
apologies to the aromatherapists out there.
Yep, and the acupuncturists and the
holistic medicine gurus,
and the people who are into goblins and elves and Ewoks and white witches, black witches, all that sort of stuff.
Green witches are popular.
Oh well, yeah, Wizard of Oz, obviously.
Yeah,
that's a traditional witch, isn't it? A green witch.
Absolutely.
Let's move on.
It's evening, and obviously there's been another Elvis contest.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see a champion walking to his car once more, but this time there's a witness to the killing.
Yes, a woman sees this happening. So we're back down to the precinct, and Hammers, he enters the, I think it's Trunk's office, and immediately mistakes this witness for a suspect.
Well, he's told she's a witness, and he just assumes that she did it because she was there.
And what does he do?
Well, he tries to get her to confess.
Grabs a hold of her lapels, gives her a right good shaking.
He does, but Dory gets him to stop.
So the witness is describing what the killer looked like to a sketch artist.
So he's really pleased with his work.
Yep. And he reveals what he has produced, and what is it?
It's a picture of Elvis.
Yeah, Fat Elvis.
Yep.
But now, considering what we know, or who we know the killer is...
Doesn't make sense. But anyway, I don't know myself. I don't know if is it based on an actual drawing of Elvis or something like that? Is that an image that we should recognise?
Yeah, that was, Elvis, as you know, has got different stages from his young, really good-looking self to his death when he was fat Elvis, and this was towards the latter part of his.
Yeah, I mean, there's only been 9 years past since he died, so that's maybe an iconic image or something like that.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? It's not been that long. I mean, if we consider now, it's only us going back to what, 2007?
Yeah, I mean, you could set that episode today with Elvis impersonators and it would still work.
Yeah.
But this is obviously, I assume they must have had Elvis impersonators while Elvis was still alive.
Yeah, of course there was. We've mentioned one before in the Columbo podcast. Ron Mazak, who was in Murder, She Wrote, and also an episode of Columbo, Ashes to Ashes. I think he played Eddie Fennell, the
fence,
the taxi driver, yes. He is apparently, or was apparently, the world's first Elvis impersonator who performed that act whilst Elvis was still a very young man in the 50s.
There you go.
And also I've got some more trivia about an Elvis impersonator.
We'll come to the trivia.
We will. So, where are we now?
Well, Sledge insists that Elvis impersonators with criminal records should be brought in, and Trunk is surprised at this good idea and agrees.
So we then have a lineup.
We do.
But just like in the morgue.
Yeah, they're all the same, they're all Elvis.
So Hammer has a "trust me, I know what I'm doing" moment before he asks them to perform a part of their act.
Yeah, that helps the witness narrow down to one individual.
Yep.
She picks out Mr. Number 5 in the lineup.
And they're led away. Hammer talks to Trunk and is quite triumphant, thinks the case is solved, but...
Trunk reveals something else.
Well, Captain, we got our man. Any chance of me rocking and rolling on his skull before you book him?
Hammer, the man identified is a cop. I put him there to test this witness's credibility. We're back at square one.
Not true, Captain. We can set a trap for this lard head. We'll lure him in, and I got just the right bait.
What's that?
Me. I'm gonna do Elvis.
They head back to the precinct where Dory has some information.
Yes, we see her watching an advert on the television for the famous Elvis School of Impersonators. And apparently each of the victims also attended that school.
Yeah, she's enrolled Sledge, but he's not happy about it because he thinks he doesn't need tuition.
I think he misses the point.
I think so. She persuades him though, and he's going to go along. And he says to her, we heard in the top of the show, that's where we get the line, sometimes you think like a man, and I respect that. Mm-hmm. I think she's touched by that.
And not just that, but she tells him to be careful. This is a great line. She says, snaring at a serial killer could end in death.
Yes, and Sledge is delighted at this prospect because he hasn't killed a serial killer for months.
Yeah, he says, I hope so.
There's another moment right now which shows that same connection. He says he's got one final request if he is killed, and she looks, I don't know, she looks almost hopeful. I don't know what it is she thinks he's going to say. But all he wants is for her to get the transmission fixed.
Now, this is the only line that, I mean, it's funny enough, but it didn't sit right for me. I'll tell you why. I would have thought that his last request would have involved his gun as opposed to his car.
Yeah, he's not really been shown, apart from that one episode at the school, he's not really been shown as being obsessed with his car or having any particular affection for it.
Mm-hmm. He likes it to be beat up.
Yeah.
The gun would have been a more obvious.
Yeah. I'm not sure that, I mean, is Dory hoping for something more personal? I mean, what could he be requesting for after his death that would please her?
No, I think she's hoping to see a more emotional and human side to him.
Maybe.
I think she thinks he's about to open up more.
But he doesn't.
No.
He heads to the Elvis School of Elvises.
Mm-hmm. And Sledge arrives late to Mr. P's class. Now, do we think Mr. P is in reference to Colonel Tom Parker?
That's what I thought. I don't know who that is, though.
You don't?
No.
Really?
It doesn't ring a bell.
So why did you think it related?
I didn't. I thought it would be hilarious.
Oh, right, okay.
Who's Colonel Tom Parker? Is he related to Camilla Parker?
No, he's related to the KFC guy.
Oh, right, okay.
You don't know who Colonel Tom Parker was?
Who is he?
Elvis's agent, and he was a very dubious individual.
Was he one of these sort of folk with connections in the mafia and so on?
I think he certainly had some connections, but the general consensus, I think, that he was born in Holland, he murdered someone, fled to the States, And you're aware of the fact that Elvis, apart from touching down in Prestwick in Scotland,
Never in the UK.
never left the US. And that was because apparently Colonel Tommy's agent couldn't leave the country. He didn't have a
Right.
passport, or he was worried about, revealing his real identity. And also, I think he took an awful lot. I think he took 50% at least of all Elvis's earnings.
Really?
Yeah. So
Not a nice
he's
man, then.
no. I mean, yeah. Whatever way you look at it, I think he. Whilst he may have helped Elvis, he certainly used him as well, and it was a bit dodgy.
They like their Elvis connection at Prestwick Airport.
They do.
I grew up a couple of miles away from there, and they've got a bar named after him, and I think people go there on some sort of pilgrimage on a regular basis.
Yeah. They could probably do more with it, to be honest.
Oh yeah, they could rename the airport after him.
They could do.
The teacher at the Elvis school is not impressed with Sledge's antics.
No. What happens?
Well, first of all, he shows up late and he acts all smart, and then he's talking in class and not paying attention, so he's called out to the front and made to dance to prove he's got moves that are worth keeping in the school.
Yeah. His first attempt is pitiful.
Woeful.
I think even you would put up a better show.
What do you mean, even me?
There was that one time at the Christmas party, Ian. I saw you on the dance floor.
That was spectacular.
Yeah. I tried to burn my eyes out after it, but
Unrelated.
yeah.
He doesn't like being called a wuss after his first attempt, so he turns up the dial to 11 and he has a second chance.
And this seems to be received in a far better light.
Do we know who played his body double in this scene?
It was him himself, it was David Rashi.
It was not David Rashi.
It was.
The top half was, the bottom half was not.
I'm disputing that. I think that was David Rashi. All you can tell.
Okay.
He also did a foot double as well a few times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the dancing was all done. Like when they showed you from the ankles down, it was somebody else.
Listen, don't ruin the dream. It was
The
David
illusion.
Rashi. It was Sledge.
The crowd, or at least the class, love it. So it's later in the evening, still at school. Sledge is sneaking around.
Yes, he is snooping in the record room and he is caught by the janitor.
He is. There's a good line in this scene. Sledge reveals who he is, that he's in the police, and he asks if any of the past students displayed any strange behaviour. And the janitor says, yes, all of them.
They go to an Elvis impersonator school, of course.
That is brilliant.
He's very unhelpful, tells Sledge to go out and informs him that he wants to go home to watch Mr. Belvedere.
And Sledge says at least someone has to.
Yeah.
Is that another one of these sort of in-jokes about things that we're up against on the...
I'm not sure if we're up against it, but apparently, on the States you've got the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
It never really broke into the top 30. So I think it's perhaps a show. It lasted for 6 years, but I don't think it ever caught on.
Okay.
So it was never a top show, and I think it's known for not really living
Maybe
up
there's
to expectations.
Belvedere line, if you're below that, you're a bad show.
Yeah, possibly.
That evening, or later that evening, at the bar, or a bar, the Elvis impersonation contest is going on that Sledge has been entered into.
And before he goes on, he tries to convince himself and Dory that he's cool, calm, and collected.
Well, the department was able to get you into this contest to lure the killer. You still have to win.
Don't worry, Duro. I'll win.
I don't know how you can be so sure. You haven't rehearsed. You don't even know what song you're going to sing.
Neither did Elvis. Listen, Duro, I'm going to win this contest because whatever I put my mind to do, I do. Sheer will is my greatest talent.
Well, I have to admire your confidence. Sure you're not the least bit nervous?
I've never been nervous in my life. Now, where am I on this lineup?
Well, you're following a guy from Dallas and preceding somebody from Miami.
Between Dallas and Miami? What a terrible place for me to be.
It's another of those digs at Dallas and Miami Vice, or at least at the scheduling of his own show.
Yeah. You can almost see him winking at the camera as he delivers that line.
Yeah, he just crashes through that fourth wall.
In any case, he goes on stage and again, he starts off fantastically poorly.
He does. The crowd jeer and they throw things, and he's not very happy with that response.
No, so he pulls out his Amigo
Shoots into the air.
before improving his performance and winning the competition.
Yeah, he demands courtesy from the audience, and whether they're just terrified or they really do like his performance after that,
No, I think they do like it.
He is awarded the trophy without even the guy from Miami getting on.
And he throws the MC.
Yeah, he did the same thing earlier with the teacher in the school during his dance. It seems to just be a reflex that he has, and he apologises for that.
Yeah, we saw that, I think, in the pilot, in the mayor's office, one of the first scenes. But I think, again, this scene here shows just how into it David Rasche was and how much he enjoyed the performance. I think he put his heart and soul into it, and you could tell.
Some spectacular makeup as well.
Yes.
Outside in the car park, we're expecting the killer to approach him.
Yes, again, we see the winner take the walk of death, and a hand grabs him from behind, and Sledge turns round and he knocks him out, or he knocks him to the ground.
And the police move in and lift the guy.
Unfortunately, it was just the MC looking to congratulate him, although Hammer thinks that they have their man.
Yeah, and the police take him away.
Dory is less than convinced.
Well, she knows that he didn't have a golden microphone, and Hammer thinks that was maybe just a mistake by the coroner.
So they head back into the bar for a soda pop, I think Hammer calls it.
What he offers to buy for Dory.
Yeah.
And he notices that there's one last Elvis impersonator still up on the stage.
Yes, and he's doing his routine with a golden microphone.
Dun dun dun.
Hey, buddy, just who the heck do you think you are?
I'm the greatest impersonator of Elvis who has ever lived.
It was you. You killed them all. Why?
Because I'm clearly superior. I was laughed at. That's why they all had to die.
Okay, Frico, but that still doesn't explain why you chose not to waste me.
I knew you were a policeman.
There's only one person who could have known that I was a policeman.
I know that guy. He's the janitor in the Elvis school. I also clean nightclubs. For years, I have had to watch those people inferior to me enjoy the bright lights of the stage. I can do Elvis more efficiently than any of you.
Consider yourself under arrest.
Consider yourself dead!
There's so much to enjoy from that scene. That was just brilliant.
So his motive is that he's far superior?
Yeah, the others are clearly inferior.
Yeah. So why didn't he just enter the competitions himself?
No, they were inferior. They had to die.
Ah, yeah. That's what I would do.
Yes.
The obvious solution. When there's a competition and you are superior to everyone else, you don't enter it, you just kill them.
That's right. Glad we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that Sledge said only one person could know who he was, but then he was shocked when it was revealed it was someone he recognised.
At this point, we have the now familiar Batman-style fight scene.
Yes, with a very spectacular finish.
What happens?
Well, in the end, Dory and Sledge are both taken care of, and the killer is about to do away with Sledge, but he raises the golden mic high and is electrocuted by the equipment. Some good special effects there as well.
Yes, for the day.
Well, in keeping with the theme and the feel of the show.
Yeah. And we head back to the precinct for this week's epilogue.
Yeah, Hammer has somehow become sensitive to Elvis puns, so Trunk taunts him mercilessly.
He also informs them that the Elvis impersonator, the killer, will make a complete recovery, so he's not dead.
Yeah, he's fine.
And then we have that series of bad puns that you mentioned.
Yes. Hammer decides that he's going to take a couple of weeks off, or a couple of days off at least.
Yeah, he's run down. He's running on empty.
So he's just he wants to get away from all this Elvis stuff.
And he's asked where he will go.
He says Graceland.
And we finish.
I enjoyed this episode.
It was fun. Like I say, you could tell that the cast, or certainly David Rasche, was having fun, and it came across. It's hard not to smile. There were so many lovely little gags, like even the newspaper headlines, the chalk outlines, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It was just a very well put together episode.
Absolutely.
So, do you have a favourite line from this week's episode?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier on. It was the point when Trunk was talking to Hammer and asking him about the investigation, and Hammer says you'll have a better idea after a few more killings.
Yeah.
That's my favourite bit.
I think mine was the one where he couldn't believe that someone drew chalk outlines for a living.
It's not a great career choice.
Yeah. Trivia.
Let's hope so.
November the 6th, 1986 was its original air date, and it will be No surprise to you, Ian, to discover that Alan Spencer himself wrote this episode. I think you can see his class coming through.
Certainly you can see his interpretation of the character. Maybe that's why we get those sort of shoulder throws from Sledge and stuff like that he introduced early on.
Jackie Cooper, spoke about him before. He was again the director.
I said at the start, I loved the shots, the walks to the car in particular. They were very nicely done.
Some guest stars. We've got Kurt Paul, who I mentioned was the coroner Norman Bates. This is his first of 10 Sledgehammer episodes. Plus he was also in Sledgefest. He also played Norman Bates in Psycho 4, the beginning, from 1990, so this predated it.
Right.
So perhaps that's why he got the role.
Could be.
And in 1987, a year after this, he was in Bates Motel, a TV movie.
It makes you wonder if the character he played in Psycho 4 was this character or the other Norman Bates.
Who knows?
Or are they different?
Is it his mother?
Well, does Sledgehammer exist in the Psycho universe?
Sledgehammer exists in every universe.
Ha.
Raymond Ma played the killer Elvis.
Okay.
He is still working very regularly. He's been in Veep, The Muppets, Boston Legal, The West Wing, LA Law, Murder, She Wrote, Matlock, Magnum and Hill Street Blues, amongst many, many, many other things.
Some CV.
Tom McFadden played Mr. P. His last appearance was, I think, 1999 in The X-Files, but he was also in Dallas, Knots Landing, Murder, She Wrote, Magnum, T.J. Hooker, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, The A-Team, and BJ and the Bear. We've heard of that before.
Yeah, that came up in Columbo, didn't it?
Yeah, Greg Evigan he played the killer in one of the killers in A Bird in the Hand.
Yes, with Tyne Daly.
From Cagney and Lacey.
That's right.
Yep, and also she was in a Dirty Harry movie as well.
There you go, some connections, twisting their way through.
Tom McFadden was also in Columbo.
What did he do in Columbo?
He played a police pilot in A Swan Song. Minor role.
Well, Swan Song's a very famous episode, though, for an Elvis tie-in. We'll go with Johnny Cash there.
Certainly have. In terms of actual trivia itself, we have mentioned the reference to being between Dallas and Miami Vice. The show was not allowed to use any Elvis material, hence the mumbled singing that we heard on a few occasions. Although they were allowed to use two tunes which are public domain tunes, so Love Me Tender and The Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah.
Apparently Alan Spencer received an angry telephone call from Colonel Tom Parker, who didn't like what they were doing, and again, apparently, allegedly, Alan Spencer was able to convince him that it was in good spirit and he was a fan.
Yeah, I don't think there's any attack on Elvis here.
No.
Maybe the drawing.
But like I say, Tom Parker was a bit of an oddball.
You wouldn't say that if he was still alive.
Yeah, I would, because he was very old. I wouldn't say it if he was perhaps in his prime and had a gun and he's a murderer. Can say that, can't I? He's dead. Yeah, he definitely did.
You can't slander the dead.
Yeah, well, he was a murderer. He killed a guy in Amsterdam. And Alan Spencer was also a friend of Andy Kaufman, the famous stand-up comedian and actor.
Okay.
You might have watched the movie about his life with Man in the Moon with Jim Carrey.
I've not seen it, but I've heard of it, yeah.
But anyway, he often impersonated Elvis, and this was a tribute to him.
Right.
Next week, Over My Dead Bodyguard.
Oh, playing words.
That's us. You've done your request, or you did your request at the top of the show, so
I did. I mean, I didn't say where folk could find us on social media, but we're at Sledgecast everywhere, so you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, go back and do that iTunes thing. And then we'll see you next week.
Surely will.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.